Oasis. Band Oasis are an English rock band formed in Manchester in 1991. The group initially consisted of Liam Gallagher, lead vocals, Paul Arthurs, guitar, Paul McGuigan, bass guitar, and Tony McCarroll, drums, with Liam asking his older brother Noel Gallagher, lead guitar, vocals, to join as a fifth member a few months later to finalize their formation. Noel became the de facto leader of the group and took over the songwriting duties for the band's first 4 albums. They are characterized as one of the defining and most globally successful groups of the Britpop genre. Oasis signed to independent record label Creation Records in 1993 and released their record-setting debut album Definitely Maybe, 1994, which topped the UK Albums Chart and quickly became the fastest-selling debut album in British history at the time. The following year they released What's the Story, Morning Glory, 1995, with new drummer Alan White, in the midst of a highly publicised chart rivalry with Piers Blur. Spending 10 weeks at number 1 on the British charts, What's the Story, Morning Glory was also an international chart success and became one of the best-selling albums of all time, the 5th best-selling album in the UK and the biggest-selling album in the UK of the 1990s. The Gallagher brothers featured regularly in tabloid newspapers throughout the 1990s for their public disputes and wild lifestyles. In 1996, Oasis performed 2 nights at Nebworth for an audience of 125,000 each time, the largest outdoor concerts in UK history at the time. In 1997, Oasis released their highly anticipated 3rd studio album, Be Here Now, which became the fastest-selling album in UK chart history. Founder members Arthurs and McGuigan left in 1999 during the recording of the band's 4th studio album Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, 2000. They were replaced by former Heavy Stereo guitarist Jem Archer on guitar and former Ride guitarist Andy Bell on bass. White departed in 2004, replaced by guest drummer Zach Starkey, and later by Chris Sharrock. Oasis released 3 more studio albums in the 2000s, Heathen Chemistry, 2002, Don't Believe the Truth, 2005, and Dig Out Your Soul, 2008. The group abruptly disbanded in 2009 after the sudden departure of Noel Gallagher. The remaining members of the band continued under the name BDI until their disbandment in 2014. Both Gallagher brothers have continued on to have successful solo careers. On the 27th of August 2024, Oasis announced that they would reform for performances in the UK and Ireland in July and August 2025 during their Live 25 tour. As of 2024, Oasis have sold over 75 million records worldwide, making them one of the best-selling music artists of all time. They are among the most successful acts in the history of the UK Singles Chart and the UK Albums Chart, with 8 UK number 1 singles and 8 UK number 1 albums. The band also achieved 3 platinum albums in the US. They won 17 NME Awards, 9 Q Awards, 4 MTV Europe Music Awards and 6 Brit Awards, including one in 2007 for Outstanding Contribution to Music and one for the Best Album of the Last 30 Years for What's the Story, Morning Glory. They were also nominated for 2 Grammy Awards. History: 1991 to 1993, Formation and Early Years. In 1991, bassist Paul McGuigan, guitarist Paul Arthurs, drummer Tony McCarroll, and singer Chris Hutton formed a band called The Rain. Unsatisfied with Hutton, Arthurs invited and auditioned acquaintance Liam Gallagher as a potential replacement. Liam suggested that the band name be changed to Oasis, inspired by an In Spiral Carpets tour poster in the childhood bedroom he shared with his brother Noel, which listed the Oasis Leisure Centre in Swindon as a venue. Oasis played their first gig on the 14th of August 1991 at the Boardwalk Club in Manchester, bottom of the bill below the Catchman and Sweet Jesus. Noel, who was working as a roadie for In Spiral Carpets, went with them to watch Liam's band play, and he was impressed with what he heard. Noel approached the group about joining on the provision that he would become the band's sole songwriter and leader, and that they would commit to an earnest pursuit of commercial success. Arthur's recalled, "He had loads of stuff written. When he walked in, we were a band making a racket with 4 tunes. All of a sudden, there were loads of ideas." Under Noel, the band crafted a musical approach that relied on simplicity, with Arthurs and McGuigan restricted to playing bar chords and root bass notes, McCarroll playing basic rhythms, and the band's amplifiers turned up to create distortion. Oasis thus created a sound described as being so devoid of finesse and complexity that it came out sounding pretty much unstoppable. 1993 to 1995, breakthrough with Definitely Maybe. After over a year of live shows, rehearsals and a recording of a demo, the live demonstration tape, in May 1993, Oasis were spotted by the Creation Records co-owner Alan McGee. Oasis were invited to play a gig at King Tut's Wah Wah Hut Club in Glasgow by sister lovers, who shared their rehearsal rooms. Oasis, along with a group of friends, hired a van and made the journey to Glasgow. When they arrived, they were refused entry as they were not on that night's set list. They and McGee have given contradicting statements about how they entered the club. They were given the opening slot and impressed McGee, who was there to see 18-Wheeler, and Sister Lovers, whose member Debbie Turner was a close friend of McGee's from his days frequenting the Hacienda in Manchester. McGee offered them a recording contract, however, they did not sign until several months later. Due to problems securing an American contract, Oasis signed a worldwide contract with Sony, which in turn licensed Oasis to Creation in the UK. Following a limited white label release of the demo of their song Columbia, Oasis went on a UK tour to promote the release of their first single, Supersonic, playing venues such as the Tunbridge Wells Forum, a converted public toilet. Supersonic was released in April 1994, reaching number 31 in the charts. The release was followed by Shakermaker, which became the subject of a plagiarism suit, with Oasis paying $500,000 in damages. Their third single, Live Forever, was their first to enter the top 10 of the UK's singles chart. After troubled recording and mixing sessions, Oasis's debut album, Definitely Maybe, was released on the 29th of August 1994. It entered the UK albums chart at number 1 within a week of its release, and at the time becoming the fastest-selling debut album in the UK. Nearly a year of constant live performances and recordings, along with a hedonistic lifestyle, damaged the band. This behavior culminated during a gig in Los Angeles in September 1994, leading to an inept performance by Liam during which he made offensive remarks about American audiences and hit Noel with a tambourine. Upset, Noel temporarily quit the band and flew to San Francisco. It was from this incident the song Talk Tonight was written. He was tracked down by Creation's Tim Abbott and they made a trip to Las Vegas. Once there, he was persuaded to continue with the band. He reconciled with Liam and the tour resumed in Minneapolis. The group followed up with the fourth single from Definitely Maybe, Cigarettes and Alcohol, and the Christmas single Whatever, issued in December 1994, which entered the British charts at number 3. 1995 to 1996, What's the Story, Morning Glory. International success, and peak popularity. In April 1995, Some Might Say became their first number 1 UK single. At the same time, McCarroll was ousted from the band. He said he was unlawfully expelled from the partnership for what he called a personality clash with the brothers. The Gallaghers were critical of McCarroll's musical ability, with Noel saying, "I like Tony as a geezer but he wouldn't have been able to drum the new songs." He was replaced by Alan White, formerly of Star Club and the brother of the percussionist Steve White, who was recommended to Noel by Paul Weller. White made his debut with Oasis on a Top of the Pops performance of Some Might Say. Oasis began recording material for their second album that May in Rockfield Studios near Monmouth. During this period, the British press seized upon a supposed rivalry between Oasis and another Britpop band, Blur. Previously, Oasis had not associated with the Britpop movement and were not invited to perform on the BBC's Britpop Now programme introduced by Blur's singer, Damon Albarn. On the 14th of August 1995, Blur and Oasis released singles on the same day, setting up the battle of Britpop that dominated the national news. Blur's Country House outsold Oasis' Roll with it 274,000 copies to 216,000 during the week. Oasis management argued that Country House had sold more because it was less expensive, £1.99 versus £3.99, and because there were two versions of the Country House single, with different B-sides, forcing fans to buy two copies. Creation said there were problems with the barcode on the roll with its single case, which did not record all sales. Noel Gallagher told The Observer in September that he hoped members of Blur would catch AIDS and die, which caused a media furore. He apologized in a formal letter to various publications. MC Guigan briefly left Oasis in September 1995, citing nervous exhaustion. He was replaced by Scott McLeod, formerly of the Yayas, who was featured on some of the tour dates as well as in the Wonderwall video before leaving abruptly while on tour in the US. McLeod contacted Noel, saying he felt he had made the wrong decision. Noel replied, "I think you have, too. Good luck signing on." Although a softer sound initially led to mixed reviews, Oasis' second album, What's the Story, Morning Glory, was a worldwide commercial success, selling over 4 million copies and becoming the fifth best-selling album in UK chart history. By 2008, it had sold up to 22 million copies globally, making it one of the best-selling albums of all time. The album produced two more singles, Wonderwall and Don't Look Back in Anger, which reached numbers 2 and 1. It also contains Champagne Supernova, which featured guitar and backing vocals by Paul Weller and received critical acclaim. The song reached number 1 on the US Modern Rock Tracks chart. In November 1995, Oasis played on back-to-back nights at Earl's Court in London, the biggest ever indoor gigs in Europe at the time. Noel played a customized Sheraton guitar emblazoned with a Union Jack, commercially released by Epiphone as the Supernova. On 27 and 28 April 1996, Oasis played their first headline outdoor concerts, at Main Road Football Stadium, home of Manchester City FC, of whom the Gallagher brothers had been fans since childhood. Highlights from the second night featured on the video, There and Then, released later the same year, along with footage from their Earl's Court gigs. As their career reached its zenith, Oasis performed to 80,000 people over 2 nights at Balloch Country Park at Loch Lomond in Scotland on 3 and 4 August, before back-to-back concerts at Nebworth House on 10 and 11 August. The band sold out both shows within minutes. The audience of 125,000 people each night, 2.5 million people applied for tickets, and 250,000 were actually sold, meaning the possibility of 20 sold-out nights, was a record-breaking number for an outdoor concert held in the UK and remains the largest demand for a show in British history. What Oasis has done in Britain, unifying an entire country under the banner of a single pop act, a band could no longer achieve in a country like the US. In Britain the band reigns unchallenged as the most popular act since the Beatles. There is an Oasis CD in roughly 1 of every 3 homes there. Last month, the band drew 250,000 people to Nebworth for the biggest outdoor concerts in the country's history. The group's battling brothers, Liam and Noel Gallagher, appear as regularly as royalty on tabloid covers. Neil Strauss, September 1996, writing in the New York Times on the group's escalating popularity. Oasis were due to record an episode of MTV Unplugged at the Royal Festival Hall, but Liam pulled out, citing a sore throat. He watched the performance from a balcony with beer and cigarettes, heckling Noel's singing between songs. 4 days later the group left for a tour of American arenas, but Liam refused to go. The band decided to continue the tour with Noel on vocals. Liam rejoined the tour on the 30th of August, and on the 4th of September 1996, Oasis performed Champagne Supernova at the 1996 MTV Video Music Awards at Radio City Music Hall in New York City. Liam made gestures at Noel during his guitar solo, then spat beer all over the stage before storming off. A few weeks later Noel flew home without the band, who followed on another flight. This event prompted media speculation that the group were splitting up. The brothers soon reconciled and decided to complete the tour. 1996 to 1999, Be Here Now and the Masterplan. Oasis spent the end of 1996 and the first quarter of 1997 at Abbey Road Studios in London and Ridge Farm Studios in Surrey recording their third album. Quarrels between the Gallagher brothers plagued the recording sessions. Be Here Now was released in August 1997. Preceded by the UK #1 single Do You Know What I Mean? The album was their most anticipated effort, and as such became the subject of considerable media attention. Footage of excited fans clutching copies made ITV News at 10, leading anchorman Trevor McDonald to intone the band's phrase "mad for it." By the end of the first day of release, Be Here Now had sold 424,000 units and first week sales reached 696,000, making it the fastest-selling album in British history until Adele released 25 in 2015. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 in the US, but its first week sales of 152,000, below expected sales of 400,000 copies, were considered a disappointment. Predominantly written by Noel Gallagher during a holiday with Kate Moss, Johnny Depp, and Mick Jagger, Gallagher has since expressed regret over the writing process of Be Here Now, adding it doesn't match up to the standard of the band's first two albums. In the studio it was great, and on the day it came out it was great. It was only when I got onto it I was thinking, it doesn't fucking stand up. People are prepared to have stand-up rows with me in the street. I fucking love that album. And I'm like, mate, look, I wrote the fucking thing. I know how much effort I put into it. It wasn't that much. For a little while, Be Here Now demanded superlatives. Its path was paved with 5-star reviews, like beetles thrown beneath a Roman emperor's feet. No album in history has experienced such a swift and dramatic reversal of fortune. Be Here Now was reframed first as a disappointment and then as a disaster. It burned out quickly, falling well short of the sales achieved by 1995's What's the Story, Morning Glory, with many copies ending up in second-hand racks. Noel himself quickly disowned it, dismissing it in the 2003 Britpop documentary Live Forever as the sound of 5 men in the studio, on coke, not giving a fuck. Dorian Lynskey writing in The Guardian, October 2016. Noel had been ambivalent about the album in pre-release interviews, telling NME, "This record ain't going to surprise many people." However, there was nobody around him to echo his reservations. "Everyone's going, it's brilliant," he later said. And right towards the end, we're doing the mixing and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know about this now. When the album was released, Oasis were woven into Britain's cultural fabric like no other band since the Beatles, and according to their former press officer Johnny Hopkins, there were more hangers-on, constantly telling them they were the greatest thing. That tended to block out the critical voices. Dorian Lynskey writes, "If it couldn't be Britpop's zenith, then it must be the nadir. It can't be just a collection of songs, some good, some bad, most too long, all insanely overproduced, but an emblem of the hubris before the fall, like a dictator's statue pulled to the ground by a vengeful mob." After the conclusion of the Be Here Now tour in early 1998, amidst much media criticism, the group kept a low profile. Later in the year, Oasis released a compilation album of 14 B-sides, The Masterplan. The really interesting stuff from around that period is the B-sides. There's a lot more inspired music on the B-sides than there is on Be Here Now itself, I think, said Noel in an interview in 2008. 1999 to 2001, lineup change and standing on the shoulder of giants. In early 1999, the band began work on their fourth studio album. First details were announced in February, with Mark Stent revealed to be taking a co-producing role. Things were not going well and the shock departure of founding member Paul "Bonehead" Arthurs was announced in August. This departure was reported at the time as amicable, with Noel stating Arthurs wanted to spend more time with his family. Arthur's statement clarified his leaving as to concentrate on other things. However, Noel has since offered a contradicting version, that a series of violations of Noel's no drink or drugs policy, imposed by Noel so that Liam could sing properly, for the album's sessions resulted in a confrontation between the two. 2 weeks later the departure of bassist Paul McGuigan was announced. The Gallagher brothers held a press conference shortly thereafter, in which they assured reporters that the future of Oasis is secure. The story and the glory will go on. After the completion of the recording sessions, the band began searching for replacement members. The first new member to be announced was new lead/rhythm guitarist Colin Gemarcher, formerly of Heavy Stereo, who later claimed to have been approached by Noel Gallagher only a couple of days after Arthur's departure was publicly announced. Finding a replacement bassist took more time and effort. The band were rehearsing with David Potts, but he quickly resigned, and they brought in Andy Bell, former guitarist/songwriter of Ride and Hurricane No. 1 as their new bassist. Bell had never played bass before and had to learn to play it, with Noel since saying, "I was amazed that Andy was up for actually playing the bass, 'cause he's such a good guitarist," along with a handful of songs from Oasis' back catalogue, in preparation for a scheduled US tour in December 1999. With the folding of Creation Records, Oasis formed their own label, Big Brother, which released all of Oasis' subsequent records in the UK and Ireland. Oasis' fourth album, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, was released in February 2000 to good first-week sales. It reached number 1 on the British charts and peaked at number 24 on the Billboard charts. 4 singles were released from the album: Go Let It Out, Who Feels Love, Sunday Morning Call and Where Did It All Go Wrong?, which the first 3 were top 5 UK singles. The Go Let It Out music video was shot before Bell joined the group and therefore featured the unusual lineup of Liam on rhythm guitar, Archer on lead guitar and Noel on bass. With the departure of the founding members, the band made several small changes to their image and sound. The cover featured a new Oasis logo, designed by Gemarcher, and the album was also the first Oasis release to include a song written by Liam Gallagher, entitled Little James. The songs also had more experimental, psychedelic influences. Standing on the Shoulder of Giants received lukewarm reviews and sales slumped in its second week of release in the US. To support the record, the band staged an eventful world tour. While touring in Barcelona in 2000, Oasis were forced to cancel a gig when an attack of tendinitis caused Alan White's arm to seize up, and the band spent the night drinking instead. After a row between the two brothers, Noel declared he was quitting touring overseas altogether, and Oasis was supposed to finish the tour without him. Noel eventually returned for the Irish and British legs of the tour, which included 2 major shows at Wembley Stadium. A live album of the first show, called Familiar to Millions, was released in late 2000 to mixed reviews. 2001 to 2003, Heathen Chemistry. Throughout 2001, Oasis split time between sessions for their 5th studio album and live shows around the world. Gigs included the month-long tour of Brotherly Love with the Black Crowes and Space Hog and a show in Paris supporting Neil Young. The album, Heathen Chemistry, Oasis' first album with new members Andy Bell and Gemarcher, was released in July 2002. The album reached number 1 in the UK and number 23 in the US, although critics gave it mixed reviews. There were 4 singles released from the album: The Hindu Times, Stop Crying Your Heart Out, Little by Little / She Is Love, which were written by Noel, and Songbird, written by Liam, and the first single not to be written by Noel. The record blended the band's sonic experiments from their last albums, but also went for a more basic rock sound. The recording of Heathen Chemistry was much more balanced for the band, with all of the members, apart from White, writing songs. Johnny Marr provided additional guitar as well as backup vocals on a couple of songs. After the album's release, the band embarked on a successful world tour that was once again filled with incidents. In August 2002, while the band were on tour in the US, Noel, Bell and touring keyboardist Jay Darlington were involved in a car accident in Indianapolis. While none of the band members sustained any major injuries, some shows were cancelled as a result. In December 2002, The latter half of the German leg of the band's European tour had to be postponed after Liam Gallagher, Alan White and 3 other members of the band's entourage were arrested after a violent brawl at a Munich nightclub. The band had been drinking heavily and tests showed that Liam had used cocaine. Liam lost 2 front teeth and kicked a police officer in the ribs, while Alan suffered minor head injuries after getting hit with an ashtray. 2 years later Liam was fined around £40,000. The band finished their tour in March 2003 after returning to those postponed dates. 2003 to 2007, Alan White's departure and Don't Believe the Truth. Oasis began recording a 6th album in late December 2003 with producer's death in Vegas at Sawmills Studios in Cornwall. The album was originally planned for a September 2004 release, to coincide with the 10th anniversary of the release of Definitely Maybe. However, longtime drummer Alan White, who at this time had played on nearly all of the band's material, had been asked to leave the band. At the time, his brother Steve White stated on his own website that the spirit of being in a band was kicked out of him and he wanted to be with his girlfriend. White was replaced by Zach Starkey, The Who's drummer and the son of the Beatles' drummer, Ringo Starr. Though Starkey performed on studio recordings and toured with the band, he was not officially a member and the band were a 4-piece for the first time in their career. Starkey played publicly for the first time at Pool Lighthouse. A few days later, Oasis, with Starkey, headlined the Glastonbury Festival for the second time in their career and performed a largely greatest hits set, which included 2 new songs, Gem Archer's A Bell Will Ring and Liam Gallagher's The Meaning of Soul. The performance received negative reviews, with NME calling it a disaster. The BBC's Tom Bishop called Oasis set lackluster and uneventful, prompting a mixed reception from fans, mainly because of Liam's uninspired singing and Starkey's lack of experience with the band's material. After much turbulence, the band's 6th album was finally recorded in Los Angeles-based Capitol Studios from October to December the same year. Producer Dave Sardy took over the lead producing role from Noel, who decided to step back from these duties after a decade of producing leadership over the band. In May 2005, after 3 years and as many scrapped recording sessions, the band released their 6th studio album, Don't Believe the Truth, fulfilling their contract with Sony BMG. It followed the path of Heathen Chemistry as being a collaborative project again, rather than a Noel-written album. The album was the first in a decade not to feature drumming by Alan White, marking the recording debut of Starkey. The record was generally hailed as the band's best effort since Morning Glory by fans and critics alike, spawning 2 UK #1 singles, Lila and The Importance of Being Idle, whilst Let There Be Love entered at number 2. Oasis picked up 2 awards at the Q Awards, one People's Choice Award and the second for Don't Believe the Truth as Best Album. Following in the footsteps of Oasis' previous 5 albums, Don't Believe the Truth also entered the UK album charts at number 1. To date the album has sold more than 6 million copies worldwide. In May 2005, the band's new lineup embarked on a large-scale world tour. Beginning on the 10th of May 2005 at the London Astoria, and finishing on the 31st of March 2006 in front of a sold-out gig in Mexico City, Oasis played more live shows than at any time since the Definitely Maybe tour, visiting 26 countries and headlining 113 shows for over 3.2 million people. The tour passed without any major incidents and was the band's most successful in more than a decade. The tour included sold-out shows at New York's Madison Square Garden and LA's Hollywood Bowl. A rockumentary film made during the tour, entitled Lord Don't Slow Me Down, directed by Dick Carruthers, was released in October 2007. A second DVD included live footage from an Oasis gig in Manchester from the 2nd of July 2005. Oasis released a compilation double album entitled Stop the Clocks in 2006. Featuring what the band considers to be their definitive songs. The band received the Brit Award for Outstanding Contribution to Music in February 2007, playing several of their most famous songs afterwards. Oasis released their first ever digital-only release, Lord Don't Slow Me Down, in October 2007. The song debuted at number 10 in the UK's singles chart. 2007 to 2009, Dig Out Your Soul. The band's resurgence in popularity since the success of Don't Believe the Truth was highlighted in February 2008 when, in a poll to find the 50 greatest British albums of the last 50 years conducted by Q Magazine and HMV, 2 Oasis albums were voted first and second, Definitely Maybe and What's the Story, Morning Glory, respectively. 2 other albums by the band appeared in the list. Don't Believe the Truth came in at number 14, and the album that has previously been heavily criticized by some of the media, Be Here Now, made the list at number 22. Oasis recorded for a couple of months in 2007, between July and September, completing work on 2 new songs and demoing the rest. They then took a 2-month break because of the birth of Noel's son. The band re-entered the studio on the 5th of November 2007 and finished recording around March 2008 with producer Dave Sardy. In May 2008, Zach Starkey left the band after recording Dig Out Your Soul, the band's 7th studio album. He was replaced by former Icicle Works and the last drummer Chris Sharrock on their tour, but Chris was not an official member of the band and Oasis remained as a 4-piece. The first single from the record was The Shock of the Lightning, written by Noel Gallagher, and was pre-released on the 29th of September 2008. Dig Out Your Soul, the band's 7th studio album, was released on the 6th of October and went to number 1 in the UK and number 5 on the Billboard 200. The band started touring for a projected 18-month-long tour expected to last till September 2009, with support from Kasabian, The Enemy and Twisted Wheel. On the 7th of September 2008, while performing at Virgin Festival in Toronto, a member of the audience ran on stage and physically assaulted Noel. Noel suffered 3 broken and dislodged ribs as a result from the attack, and the group had to cancel several shows while he recovered. In June 2008, the band resigned with Sony BMG for a 3-album deal. On the 25th of February 2009, Oasis received the NME Award for Best British Band of 2009, as well as Best Blog for Noel's Tales from the Middle of Nowhere. On the 4th of June 2009, Oasis played the first of 3 concerts at Manchester's Heaton Park, and after having to leave the stage twice due to a generator failure, came on the 3rd time to declare the gig was now a free concert. It delighted the 70,000 ticket holders, 20,000 of whom claimed the refund. The band's 2 following gigs at the venue, on 6 and the 7th of June, proved a great success, with fans turning out in the thousands despite the changeable weather and first night's sound issues. 2009 to 2024, Split and Aftermath. After Liam contracted laryngitis, Oasis cancelled a gig at V Festival in Chelmsford on the 23rd of August 2009. Noel stated in 2011 that the gig was cancelled due to Liam having a hangover. Liam subsequently sued Noel, and demanded an apology, stating, "The truth is I had laryngitis, which Noel was made fully aware of that morning, diagnosed by a doctor." Noel issued an apology and the lawsuit was dropped. The band were due to perform on the 28th of August 2009 at the Rock en Seine Festival near Paris. However, midway through block parties set at the festival, their frontman Kelly Akereke, alongside block party tour manager Peter Hill, announced that Oasis would not be performing. 2 hours later, a statement from Noel appeared on the band's website. "It is with some sadness and great relief, I quit Oasis tonight. People will write and say what they like, but I simply could not go on working with Liam a day longer." Liam and the remaining members of Oasis decided to continue under the name BDI, releasing 2 studio albums until their breakup in 2014. Liam started a solo career and has released 3 studio albums, with others joining him occasionally on tour. Noel formed a solo project, Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds, and has released 4 studio albums, with Sharrock and Archer later joining as members. Bell reunited with former band Ride. On the 16th of February 2010, Oasis won Best British Album of the Last 30 Years, for What's the Story, Morning Glory at the 2010 Brit Awards. Liam collected the award alone before presenting his speech, which thanked Bonehead, McGuigan and Alan White but not Noel, and throwing his microphone and the band's award into the crowd, he later defended his actions. Time Flies. 1994 to 2009, a compilation of singles, was released on the 14th of June 2010. It became the band's final album to reach number 1 on the UK Albums Chart. A remastered 3-disc version of Definitely Maybe was released on the 19th of May 2014. A documentary titled Oasis, Supersonic was released on the 26th of October 2016, which tells the story of Oasis from their beginnings to the height of their fame during the summer of 1996. Another concert documentary film was released in September 2021, in celebration of the 25th anniversary of Oasis's 2 record-breaking concerts at Knebworth Park in August 1996. A new demo recording, Don't Stop, previously only known from a recording during a sound check in Hong Kong, was rediscovered during the COVID-19 pandemic, and was released on the 3rd of May 2020. It passed 1 million views on YouTube that morning and reached number 80 on the UK singles chart based on streaming alone. 2024 Present, Reunion and Live 25 Tour. On the 27th of August 2024, almost 15 years to the date of their 2009 split, Oasis announced that they would reform for performances in the UK and Ireland in July and August 2025, stating the guns have fallen silent. The stars have aligned. The great wait is over. Come see. It will not be televised. It was later revealed that original member Paul "Bonehead" Arthurs and Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds will perform alongside the two brothers. Musical style and influences. Musically, Oasis have been regarded as a rock band. More specifically, the band has been described as Britpop, indie rock, alternative rock, pop rock, neo-psychedelia, psychedelic rock, and power pop band. Oasis were most heavily influenced by the Beatles, an influence that was frequently labelled as an obsession by British media. The band were also strongly influenced by the other 1960s British invasion acts, including the Hollies, the Kinks, the Rolling Stones, Small Faces and The Who. Another major influence, especially during the band's early career, was 1970s British punk rock, in particular the Sex Pistols and their album Never Mind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols, 1977, as well as Buzzcocks, The Damned, and The Jam/Paul Weller. In addition, members of Oasis have cited AC/DC, Acetone, Burt Bacharach, Beck, Bee Gees, David Bowie, The Doors, Bob Dylan, Peter Green era Fleetwood Mac, Grant Lee Buffalo, Happy Mondays, Jimi Hendrix, Humble Pie, In Spiral Carpets, Joy Division/New Order, The La's, Led Zeppelin, MC5, Mercury Rev, Motorhead, Nirvana, Pink Floyd, R.E.M., Slade, The Smiths, The Specials, The Stone Roses, The Stooges, T-Rex, Talking Heads, U2, The Verve, The Velvet Underground/Lou Reed, and Neil Young. As an influence or inspiration. Oasis albums consistently featured loud tracks characterized by nasal vocals. These dynamic Britpop compositions stood in stark contrast to the more polished pop tunes of Blur, their chart rivals. Especially in their early years, Oasis' musical style and lyrics were grounded in the working-class backgrounds of Liam and Noel. The brothers became known for their rebellious demeanor, self-assured personalities, and sibling rivalry. These characteristics garnered media interest from the band's beginnings and endured throughout their entire career. Legal battles over songwriter credits. Legal action has been taken against Noel Gallagher and Oasis for plagiarism on 3 occasions. The first was the case of Neil Innes, formerly of the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band and the Ruttles, suing to prove the Oasis song Whatever borrowed from his song How Sweet to Be an Idiot. Innes was eventually awarded royalties and a co-writer credit. Noel Gallagher claimed in 2010 that the plagiarism was unintentional and he was unaware of the similarities until informed of Innes's legal case. In the second incident, Oasis were sued by Coca-Cola and forced to pay $500,000 in damages to the New Seekers after it was alleged that the Oasis song Shaker Maker had lifted words and melody from I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing. When asked about the incident, Noel Gallagher joked, "Now we all drink Pepsi." On the third and final occasion, when promotional copies of What's the Story, Morning Glory were originally distributed, they contained a previously unreleased bonus song called Step Out. This promotional CD was quickly withdrawn and replaced with a version that omitted the controversial song, which was allegedly similar to the Stevie Wonder song Uptight, Everything's Alright. Official releases of Step Out, as the B-side to Don't Look Back in Anger and Unfamiliar to Millions, listed Wonder, et al. as co-writers. The 2003 song Life Got Cold by UK band Girls Aloud received attention due to similarities between the guitar riff and melody of the song and that of the Oasis song Wonderwall. A BBC review stated part of the chorus sounds like it is going to turn into Wonderwall by Oasis. Warner/Chappell Music has since credited Noel Gallagher as co-songwriter. Legacy and influence. Despite parting ways in 2009, Oasis remain hugely influential in British music and culture and are now recognised as one of the biggest and most acclaimed bands of the 1990s. They are widely recognised as one of the spearheads of Britpop, which has claimed a prominent place in the British musical landscape. With their record-breaking sales, concerts, sibling disputes, and their high-profile chart battle with Britpop rivals Blur, Oasis were a major part of 1990s UK pop culture, an era dubbed Cool Britannia. Many bands and artists have cited Oasis as an influence or inspiration, including Arctic Monkeys, Catfish and the Bottlemen, Deaf Heaven, The Killers, Always, Maroon 5, Coldplay, and Ryan Adams. The band's success also helped local businesses. Pete Caband, owner of Bandwagon Music Supplies in Perth, Scotland, which closed in 2020 after 37 years in business, said, "The highlight years were the mid-90s to the early 2000s. That was the peak period. The Oasis period, as I call it, where everyone wanted to buy a guitar. That was the game changer for music and for me here in Perth. I was shoveling guitars out the door at the point." So hurrah for Noel Gallagher. In 2007, Oasis were one of the 4 featured artists in the 7th episode of the BBC/VH1 series 7 Ages of Rock, an episode about British indie rock, along with Britpop peers Blur in addition to the Smiths and the Stone Roses. In 2023, an unofficial music project by the name of Isis was the first full-length album to use AI vocals. The project was a success and attracted more than 500,000 views within 6 weeks of publication, including multiple newspaper articles written about it, and brought Breezer, the band that created the project, out of obscurity and landed them with prestigious live dates. Bobby Geraghty and his Breezer bandmates wrote original Oasis-style songs and then used AI to create audio deepfakes based on Liam Gallagher's voice alongside their original instrumentation. Liam himself approved of the album, saying that he sounded mega. Oasis were nominated into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on their 6th year of eligibility in February 2024. Initially, the members included in the nomination were the Gallagher brothers, McGuigan, White, Arthurs, McCarroll, Archer, and Bell. Band members. Current members: Liam Gallagher, vocals, tambourine, 1991 to 2009, 2024 present, acoustic guitar, 2001 to 2002, 2007 to 2008. Noel Gallagher, lead guitar, vocals, 1991 to 2009, 2024 present, rhythm guitar, 1991, 1999 to 2009, 2024 present, keyboards, 1993 to 2009, 2024 present, bass guitar, 1993 to 1994, 1995, 1999. Paul Bonehead Others, rhythm guitar, 1991 to 1999, 2024 present, lead guitar, 1991, keyboards, 1994 to 1997, bass guitar, 1995. Current touring members: Micro, keyboards, 1997 to 2000, 2001, 2024 present. Jem Archer, rhythm and lead guitar, 1999 to 2009, 2024 present, 1999 to 2009 as official member, backing vocals, 2002 to 2003, keyboards, 2002 to 2005, harmonica, 2005 to 2009 Chris Sharrock, drums, percussion, 2008 to 2009, 2024 present Russell Pritchard, bass guitar, backing vocals, 2024 present. Former members: Paul Gwigsy McGuigan, bass guitar, 1991 to 1995, 1995 to 1999, Tony McCarroll, drums, 1991 to 1995, Alan Whitey White, drums, percussion, 1995 to 2004, Andy Bell, bass guitar, 1999 to 2009, rhythm guitar, 2003 to 2009, keyboards, 2007 to 2009. Former touring members: Scott McLeod, bass guitar, 1995, Matt Deaton, rhythm guitar, 2000, Steve White, drums, 2001, Zeb Jameson, keyboards, 2000 to 2001, Jay Darlington, keyboards, 2002 to 2009, Zach Starkey, drums, percussion, 2004 to 2008. Timeline. Touring timeline. Discography. Definitely Maybe, 1994, What's the Story, Morning Glory. 1995, Be Here Now, 1997, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, 2000, Heathen Chemistry, 2002, Don't Believe the Truth, 2005, Dig Out Your Soul, 2008. Concert tours. Definitely Maybe Tour, 1994 to 1995, What's the Story, Morning Glory. Tour, 1995 to 1996, Be Here Now Tour, 1997 to 1998, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants Tour, 1999 to 2001, The Tour of Brotherly Love, 2001, Heathen Chemistry Tour, 2002 to 2003, Don't Believe the Truth Tour, 2005 to 2006, Dig Out Your Soul Tour, 2008 to 2009, Live 25 Tour, 2025. Awards and nominations.